Welcome back. In our last session, we talked about the need to frame your purpose in terms of value that you can bring to a company. This certainly applies when you're looking for a job, but it also applies while you're in your current employment as well. What we're talking about is developing what's known as your personal brand. And what we mean by that is simply, what do you want to be known for? The first truism I want you to get a hold of is that your good work does not speak for itself. You may have heard that expression, good work speaks for itself. It doesn't. Not in today's very fast paced corporate environment. Most people are too focused on their self interest, and it's really not your boss's job to keep track of all your wins. Additionally, most of us are going to switch organizations many times in our career. When you get a new manager, he or she doesn't know all the things you've done before. So it's up to you to let people know the kind of work that you do. The second truth is that developing a personal brand is not about bragging. It's not tooting your own horn to make yourself look great. Instead, it's simply telling others how you can help them, the value that you bring, the kinds of partnerships you're looking for in order to do good work. Do you remember this exercise that we did in the previous session? We talked about how to describe the unique value that you bring to the organization. This is where you're going to really lean into that. A well crafted personal brand helps people learn much faster how to work with you. Eventually, most of us figure out each other's working styles, but why not speed that learning curve up a whole lot more? Tell them, hey, this is what I'm about. These are the things I focus on. These are the things I excel at. And these are areas where I might tend to need some help. Once people know that they can adjust expectations, you'll find your place on the team a lot faster. And thirdly, communicating your brand opens doors of opportunity and attracts resources a lot faster. I've seen this happen over and over again. And I'm going to tell you a story about that in just a minute. But the fourth truism, and this one's really important, if you don't define your personal brand, other people are going to do it for you. We all constantly send out subconscious signals of who we are, and we're all assessing each other. Why not steer that the way you want it to go instead of leaving things to chance? This is especially important if you're not as verbal or as outgoing as others. Consider this scenario, for instance. Let's say you didn't speak up during a meeting and you've been thinking that you wanted to give more time to think about the topic before you answered. But here's a dynamic you can't escape. In the absence of information, people assume the worst. I'll say that again. In the absence of information, people tend to assume the worst. They're going to come up with their own story about why you didn't speak up. Okay. What you could do instead is simply say something like, hey, you know what? I'd like to give a high quality answer to this. So I'm going to give this some more thought and I'll get back to you soon, a little later. Do you see how that just one statement could help people understand you so much better? Now they understand what to expect from you, that you value quality, and how they can best use your talents in the future. It's simple, but you've got to be proactive and get in front of this. And again, it's not bragging, it's just helping them understand how to best work with you. So, here are some practical tips on developing your personal brand. First, go back to Unit 3 and take your life purpose statement and use that as the launching point for your personal brand. Remember, you want to phrase this in business terms that represent value to the organization. Second, it might take you a few attempts to get this right. You want a statement that's easy to say, that flows well. And if you're not naturally a great communicator, find someone who is and bounce it off of them. And third, keep it simple. We're not talking about a paragraph like, here's everything I do. It's just the primary value that you bring. And finally, don't just repeat your title or your job description. Most people already know that to some extent. What you want to communicate is what makes you different, things that aren't obvious, that they still need to learn about you. Now, I'd like to address a separate but related concept, and that is you need to be keeping a log of your accomplishments. Remember, your work does not speak for itself. And because most of us are going to change organizations multiple times in our career, you want to be able to support with evidence the value that you say you can bring. And that goes for any medium to large project. Capture a short paragraph or two about what was the challenge, how did you go about executing on that challenge, what were the results, and if those results could be measured, that's even better. There's one hurdle that I find when I talk to my clients about this, however. Because they were part of a team, they're reluctant to say, I did this, because they feel like they're hogging all the credit from the rest of the team. Well, fair enough. Let's deal with that. When you tell your story, certainly mention the word team. Everyone knows you didn't do it single handedly. So mention the team, but highlight your role on the team. So, for instance, our project came in 20% under budget and 3 weeks before the deadline. I was the project manager and found some significant cost savings that also cut out some redundant processes. I had a great team working with me, and together we received a company award for excellence. I'm telling you what I did. I was the project manager, and I'm not trying to say I did it on my own, but I'm showing you that I have valuable skills and I'm proud of the fact that we hit that goal. And mentioning team shows that I know how to work with others as well. So start keeping a log of your wins. Okay. If you haven't done this up to this point, start today. Try to go back and resurrect some of your bigger wins and capture those stories. But from today forward, just keep logging these. This is your portfolio. Right? Going back to that mindset that we introduced earlier, that you're now self employed. Okay. Well, you're working for different clients who happen to be your employers, but now you have a through line of this is who I am. This is the work I've done across my career. Here's my portfolio. Okay. And this is super helpful when it comes to interviews if you're looking for your next role. And it's great to put up on LinkedIn. There's a section there to highlight the projects that you've done. It helps to put you in charge of your story. And if anyone ever wants you to explain the details, you have the proof. I'd like to tell you a story about one of my clients, whom I'll call James. He was a senior product manager at a financial services firm. His department develops the platforms and apps that the firm and their customers use. James believes strongly that following good, solid processes achieves great outcomes, fewer mistakes, and saves time in the long run. But he was in a company that had a lot of people that had like knee jerk reactions and they'd run from one idea to the other. And James was not the kind of guy who spoke up a lot in meetings. He had been there for 9 years. He was a good employee, he was a good leader. His team members loved him because he was always investing in them and developing them. And in fact, in his personal time, he was a Pop Warner football coach, and his team won all the time because he believed in people and he knew how to develop them. You would have wanted to work for James. But at this level, with his peers and with the senior execs, they didn't know him so much. They knew he got results, but they didn't really know who he was or what he was contributing. He doesn't speak up much in meetings. And when he did, he kind of rambled a bit. And as a result, he wasn't advancing or getting the resources that he needed. So we developed a personal brand statement for him that said something like, I believe in following consistent processes with an eye on the long term success of the company. Now, that told everyone I'm a process oriented guy. I think long term and I don't do knee jerk. Okay, I gave him a homework assignment. He needed to say some version of that statement at least once in every meeting that he was going to be in and put it in his email signature. Well, he did that. And I have to be honest, I do a lot of executive coaching and my clients get good results. But when someone gets radically fast results, it kind of blows me away. And that's what happened with James. Within 2 weeks of saying his statement, all these resources started coming to him. People are coming to him and asking him to be on new projects. They gave him more team members. He didn't even ask for them. He was getting voluntary cooperation from other departments, and people were showing him a whole lot more respect during meetings. And when he did speak up, everyone paid closer attention. And then to top it all off, he was just walking down the hall, and the CEO sees him, stops him, and says, "Hey, James, I hear so many good things about you. Please drop in my office anytime to share your ideas. You don't need to wait." Okay, amazing story. Amazing. Yeah, your results might vary. Now remember, James was there for 9 years and none of that had happened. But by just communicating his personal brand, all these doors started opening. He wasn't bragging, he was just stating, "This is who I am, this is the value that I bring." Now, I can't guarantee you'll get those fast results, but you should do something to help set yourself apart. Let people know who you are, your purpose, and the value that you can bring to them. Please download this session's exercise. You're going to work on developing a personal brand statement. In the next session, I'll introduce you to a much more effective way to go about your job search. I'll see you there.